Thanks for joining us on Arirang News. I'm Kim Dami in Seoul. Following his farewell summit with Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida last week, President Yoon pledged to carry out projects that reflect the improved Seoul-Tokyo relations. He also said the government is raising insurance fees for emergency medical staff who have been looking after patients during the recent shortage of medical personnel. And starting Monday, more than 200 military doctors are additionally being dispatched to medical facilities that are struggling to operate because of staffing shortages. A Typhoon Yagi has ripped through northern Vietnam, leaving nearly 50 people dead and at least 22 missing since making landfall on Saturday. Authorities call Yagi the most powerful storm in East Asia in the past 3 decades. President Yoon on Tuesday ordered his cabinet to ensure that the public can personally experience the benefits of improved South Korea-Japan relations. This came from a cabinet meeting that followed Yoon's 12th and last summit with Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida late last week. Yoon said all channels between the two governments have been revived since March last year. He also highlighted new bilateral agreements, the pre-entry screening process, and cooperation in protecting overseas nationals in third countries. Also, in terms of the emergency medical system during the Chuseok holiday, Yoon said if patients follow the government's guidance, there won't be any concerns. He noted that many local hospitals would open during the holidays and urged people with light symptoms to visit them instead of emergency rooms. He also said the insurance fees for emergency medical workers have been raised to show appreciation for their work. More than 200 military doctors will be additionally dispatched to emergency rooms at hospitals that are experiencing a lack of medical personnel. And the government once again made clear that its plan to raise the medical school quota will be realized. The Ministry of Health and Welfare announced that following the dispatching of 15 last week, 235 additional military doctors will be gradually assigned to medical facilities from Monday to Wednesday. Despite some of the military doctors requesting to return and refusing to work as they lack the necessary experience, the government is committed to enhancing training and communication. Meanwhile, South Korean lawmakers are working to address concerns about potential disruptions in the medical system ahead of the Chuseok holiday. Floor leaders of the rival parties met with the National Assembly Speaker on Monday and agreed to work together to bring doctors to the discussion table. This follows a proposal by the People Power Party to establish a joint consultative body involving rival parties, the government, and relevant members of the medical community to resolve disputes related to the medical reform. However, the Korean Medical Association said it is hesitant about participating in the talks, as it's demanding that the government scraps its plan to increase next year's medical school quota. The association also reaffirmed its position in a public statement released on Monday, asserting that the only way to bring back the trainee doctors is for the government to fully withdraw its plan to expand medical school quotas. This statement also highlighted the worsening healthcare crisis, noting that without the trainee doctors, not only are emergency rooms overwhelmed, but even the so-called Big Five hospitals are struggling and their remaining staff are exhausted. Amid the ongoing dispute with no clear resolution in sight, the early admissions process for medical schools began Monday, confirming that the government's original plan to increase the med school quota by 2,000 from next year remains unchanged. And with the admission process already underway, the Ministry of Education has stated that reversing the increase would create a considerable confusion, so no changes will be considered. Following liquidity crises at e-commerce platforms Timor and WeMakePrice, the authorities and the ruling party have come up with plans to strengthen measures against harmful trade practices. Our Lee Si-hu reports.
Soon, online sellers here making profits through harmful or anti-competitive practices will have to alter their sales tricks. On Monday, officials from relevant government ministries and the ruling People Power Party announced new plans to stop e-commerce platforms from exploiting individual sellers and making sales through unethical practices. Until now, it was common for platforms to beat out competitors by giving preferential promotions for their own products, carrying out tie-in sales, and demanding the lowest possible supply prices from sellers. However, all these prices will likely be banned, and the platforms will be fined at a higher rate as the administration and the PPP introduce new changes to current rules. The ruling party members of the National Assembly Legislation Committee will introduce changes to two current laws, the Monopoly Regulation and Fair Trade Act and the Act on Fair Transactions in Large Retail Business. This will make it fundamentally illegal to cheat customers and legally require the platforms to provide swift payments to sellers while also improving their liquidity ratio. The long-anticipated measures follow nationwide market chaos from early July, caused by liquidity issues at platforms TMON and We Make Price. Subsequent government support measures soon after helped sellers awaiting payment and customers waiting for refunds, but there have since been numerous calls for measures for proactive prevention. Lee Si-hoo, Arirang News.
The International REAIM Summit began on Monday, bringing together high-level delegations from around the world for a two-day discussion on responsible use of AI in the military domain for peace and security. Our Kim Jong-sil has more.
The REAIM Summit, a platform for global discussions on the responsible use of AI in military applications, kicked off on Monday in the South Korean capital. Following the first summit co-hosted by South Korea with the Netherlands in The Hague, this second summit was co-hosted by South Korea, the Netherlands, Singapore, Kenya, and the UK. South Korean Foreign Minister Cho Tae-yeol stressed the importance of the summit amid rising geopolitical tensions.
Faced with profound uncertainties on both technological and geopolitical fronts, it is all the more imperative that we set the norms and governance for responsible AI to ensure international peace and security and to preserve human dignity.
Minister Cho called for a balanced assessment of AI's impact on global peace and security. He also highlighted the importance of pooling ideas to ensure the responsible use of AI and called for a robust governance framework to establish guardrails. The Netherlands Defense Minister Ruben Brekelmans also underscored the importance of international cooperation.
REAIM shows that we stand united in dealing with current challenges. It represents our shared dedication to develop and deploy applications of AI in a responsible way.
Delegations from more than 90 countries took part in the summit along with experts in the military and AI sectors.
And South Korea is a global leader in technology and is really innovating in ways to use AI and autonomy in the military space as well.
He further addressed why stakeholders need to discuss the responsible use of AI in the military domain.
The technology is widely available. Anyone can go online and download AI tools that they can use. And so I think we need to assume that competitor nations, rogue nations, terrorist groups all have access to AI. And we just need to find ways to ensure that the AI that we're using for defense is better.
On the second day, the REAIM Summit plans to adopt a blueprint for action that aims to outline guidelines for responsible AI governance. Kim Jong-sil, Arirang News.
As North Korea unveiled a new mobile missile launcher earlier this week, the Pentagon said the regime's show of military power is nothing new, while reiterating security cooperation with regional allies. According to Pentagon Press Secretary Pat Ryder on Monday, the regime has always used media reports or images to send messages, referring to the photo showing a new 12-Exalt transporter erector launcher. While Ryder said he won't comment on the military capability of the latest launcher, it raises speculation that the North could use the vehicle to launch a new intercontinental ballistic missile. Amid the latest threat, the press secretary said the primary focus is to work with its allies, including South Korea and Japan, to preserve regional security and stability while deterring a potential North Korean attack. A Typhoon Yagi struck Vietnam over the weekend, causing severe flooding that led to the collapse of bridges and the sweeping away of buses. The disaster has claimed at least 49 lives in the country, with many still missing. Yoon has more.
What is said to be the strongest to hit Vietnam in decades, Typhoon Yagi devastated the country over the weekend, sweeping away buses, sinking boats, blowing down thousands of trees, and tearing roofs off buildings.
In my entire life, I haven't seen a typhoon with this brutal winds. Very strong. It has knocked down many trees on the streets. I have to temporarily be under the shelter, under the bridge.
On Monday, a major bridge in northern Vietnam, the Phong Chau Bridge, collapsed, causing cars to fall into the river below. Over 10 people are still reported missing from the bridge collapse. Deaths from the typhoon have risen to at least 49, and over 20 people are still missing. This is according to the local government as of Monday. Deaths have continued to rise in the aftermath of the typhoon, including from a landslide triggered on Saturday.
I've lost everything. There's nothing left. When I look around, people have also lost all they had, just like me. Even though I'm sad, I can talk about it because it's not just me who is suffering. I can only try to recover from this.
The typhoon cut power to millions of households and companies and severely damaged infrastructure. The walls of a South Korean LG electronics factory collapsed in Haiphong, northern Vietnam, causing significant damage but no injuries to employees. LG Electronics said that refrigerators and washing machines were floating in the floodwater. Although Vietnam's meteorological agency downgraded Yagi to a tropical depression on Sunday, it cautioned that there is still a high risk of additional flooding and landslides as the storm moves westwards. Typhoon Yagi, one of the most powerful storms to hit Asia this year, also caused significant destruction in China and the Philippines before reaching Vietnam. Yoon, Arirang News.
Now, wildfires in the southwest United States are growing rapidly amid a heat wave that has pushed the daytime temperatures up to around 38 degrees Celsius in the region. California and fire authorities have said that more than 8 billion square meters have burned across the western U.S. since the fire started on September 5th. The line fire, which started in San Bernardino, east of Los Angeles, is forcing around 5,000 homes to evacuate. Around 1,000 firefighters have been deployed, but the fire is only 3% contained. California has declared a state of emergency in the area and is sending various resources to minimize the damage. On Tuesday local time, U.S. presidential candidates Kamala Harris and Donald Trump will face off in their first televised debate. With the two candidates neck and neck in recent polls, the debate is expected to help swing voters make their decisions. Lee Seung-jae reports.
The televised debate between U.S. President Joe Biden and former President Donald Trump was the catalyst for the incumbent dropping out of the race. That led to Vice President Kamala Harris running as the new Democratic Party candidate. And another showdown is set to take place on Tuesday, as Harris and Trump will meet for their first televised debate. Hosted by ABC and moderated by David Muir and Lindsay Davis, the debate will last for 90 minutes. Taking place in Philadelphia, the two will square off on key issues like the economy, immigration, abortion rights, crime, and foreign policy. With the two candidates neck and neck in recent polls, the televised debate is expected to give a much-needed push to convince swing voters one way or the other. Trump is likely to blame high inflation on the Biden administration and its clean energy expansion policy. Harris is likely to counter by presenting her economic pledges to reduce the burden of inflation on the middle class, while slamming Trump for looking after the rich. The two will also lock horns on immigration issues and abortion rights. And following a recent school shooting, pundits expect gun control might also be brought up. And all eyes are on how Trump will respond, given the assassination attempt on the former president. As for the rules of the debate, the mics will be muted while each candidate takes their turn to speak, despite a request from the Harris camp to have the microphones open at all times. The debate will begin with questions from the moderators with no opening statements. Harris and Trump will, however, have a chance at the end for a 2-minute closing statement. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
In a world often dominated by sleek modern architecture, a centuries-old Korean tradition is experiencing a global resurgence. A unique educational program is helping to preserve and promote the ancient art of Hanok construction. Our Moon Hae-dan went there to take a look.
Hundreds of small carved wooden blocks fill this room, all in various stages of completion. It may not look like much now, but they are the building blocks of Hanok, a style of traditional Korean architecture beginning to gain traction globally, thanks to its unique characteristics that set it apart from Western-style buildings in the modern day. Jeonbuk National University's Gochang campus offers a wide variety of Hanok education programs that range from a hobbyist course to a 4-year undergraduate degree, funded by the Ministry of Land, Infrastructure and Transport in an effort to conserve Hanok culture. Students come from a wide variety of backgrounds as a result, including this group of students who are learning how to build ondol, an underfloor heating system, and how to apply clay to walls. They're all professionally trained architects wanting to integrate Hanok elements into their work, and 2 months into the course, their perspectives on Hanok are changing.
I used to think of Hanok as just houses that people used to live in back in the day. But since I began this course, I realized it's more complex and worth studying in depth.
Another key aspect of Hanok architecture is that it can be built and then taken apart again like Lego blocks. This is possible because these buildings don't use nails but interlocking pieces to keep the structure sturdy, and students are able to build pavilions like this before disassembling them to donate to disadvantaged communities or public institutions to be reassembled on site.
As you can see behind me, students are busy learning techniques that are essential for Hanok building, especially woodwork.
Wood and soil are the primary materials that go into building Hanok, making traditional Korean architecture eco-friendly and sustainable. As current global architectural trends are centered around sustainability, Hanok is an attractive building model overseas. The university exports Hanok to many countries around the world, including the likes of Vietnam, the Philippines, Algeria, and the United States.
The most rewarding aspect of teaching the program here is when people overseas recognize the beauty of Hanok when we export Hanok to their countries. The future of Hanok seems bright, with more orders coming in and women also taking an interest in learning Hanok architecture.
With this global boom, the localization of Hanok to fit their new overseas environment will be the next step in preserving and promoting Hanok culture. Moon Hae-dan, Arirang News, Gochang.
Let's take a look at the latest news in the world now. Following Algeria's presidential election on Saturday, the country's incumbent president, Abdelmadjid Tebboune, has been re-elected to the position after winning almost 95% of the votes, according to Algeria's electoral authority. Official preliminary results declared on Sunday showed Tebboune had won 94.65% of the 5,630,000 votes cast, ahead of opponents Abdel Ali Hassani Sharif's 3% and Youssef Al-Shishe's 2.1%. 78-year-old Tebboune is backed by Algeria's military and faced only nominal opposition from candidate Sharif, who is a moderate Islamist, and Al-Shishe, a moderate secularist. Tebboune, who is now set to serve a second term as Algeria's president, was previously elected in 2019. Tebboune's re-election will mean that Algeria, Africa's largest country by area and populated with some 45 million people, will continue with a governing program that focuses on increasing social spending, such as unemployment benefits and public housing programs, which saw an increase in Tebboune's first term as president. Filipino celebrity evangelist preacher Apollo Quiboloy, who is accused of sexual abuse and human trafficking in the Philippines and the United States, was arrested on Sunday in southern Philippines following a weeks-long police search. Quiboloy and 4 other co-accused surrendered to the police at the headquarters of the religious group, the Kingdom of Jesus Christ, in Davao City, after local authorities gave a 24-hour ultimatum to give up. 74-year-old Quiboloy and his co-accused were flown to the country's capital, Manila, on Sunday night before being locked up at the National Police headquarters. Quiboloy, who claims to be the appointed son of God, is the founder of the Kingdom of Jesus Christ and is also wanted in the US on charges of sex trafficking and bulk cash smuggling. Quiboloy, who has millions of followers in the Philippines, has denied the charges. The country's president, Ferdinand Marcos Jr., said Monday that he will not be given special treatment. In Nigeria, at least 48 people have died after a fuel tanker truck collided with another vehicle and exploded on Sunday. The State Emergency Management Agency in north-central Niger State said that the fuel truck collided with a truck in the state's Agay area, carrying travelers and livestock such as cattle, while several other vehicles were also caught up in the incident. Abdullahi Baba Arab, Director General of the Niger State Emergency Management Agency, said that at least 50 cattle were burned alive at the scene of the crash, and that victims that have burnt beyond recognition were given a mass burial near the site of the accident. Niger Governor Mohamed Umaru Bago expressed condolences and warned drivers to always be cautious and abide by road traffic regulations to safeguard lives and property. Serious road accidents are commonplace in Nigeria, where according to the country's Federal Road Safety Corps, there were 1,531 gasoline tanker crashes in 2020 alone. Pope Francis arrived in the Southeast Asian nation of East Timor on Monday for his penultimate stop of his trip through Asia and the South Pacific. The 87-year-old Pope landed in East Timor's capital, Dili, on Monday and was welcomed by some 750,000 people, more than half the country's population. The last papal visit to Dili was in 1989 by Pope John Paul II, when the territory was still occupied by Indonesia. The country of just some 1.3 million people has the second highest proportion of its population identifying as Catholic after the Vatican, with 97% of the population identifying as Catholic. The government allocated some $12 million for the Pope's visit. East Timor gained independence from Indonesia in 2002. Kim Seong, Arirang News.
Good afternoon. It feels like the midsummer is coming back to us. Many central parts of Korea saw record-breaking September temperatures yesterday. Here in Seoul, as well as in Daejeon, we saw temperatures above 34 degrees, nearing 35 in Daejeon yesterday under bright sunshine. And it looks like it's going to be as hot as yesterday. Monday's heat brought us a tropical night, with Seoul waking up to the latest tropical night on record this morning. Heat alerts have been upgraded and expanded to more parts of the country. Please stay safe under sizzling heat and blazing sunshine today. Jeju, meanwhile, will see afternoon rain, which will linger into tomorrow with up to 80 millimeters in the forecast. And this afternoon, Seoul and Daegu top out at 34 degrees, Daejeon, Gwangju at 35. It's hard to believe Chuseok is right around the corner with this high heat. Thursday's nationwide rain should bring relief to unusual heat, but it's not going to be as much as we'd like. That's Korea for you, and here's a look at the international weather conditions.
That wraps up our midday edition of Arirang News. Thanks for watching.